Hey everybody, and welcome to Vinyl Obsession, the podcast. We're here at the Record Parlor in Los Angeles, California, with tattoo artist Kat Von D, who finished searching the store for her top 5 vinyl on Vinyl Obsession, the podcast. Hey guys, welcome to Vinyl Obsession, the podcast. I am Eric Young, and this is Kat Von D. Kat Von D is best known for her work as a tattoo artist on the reality series LA Ink, but is also a singer and released her first single, Exorcism, in 2021. Kat holds the Guinness Book of World Records for the most tattoos given by a single person in a 24-hour period, 400. It was really cool watching you hunt and gather your top 5 and awesome selections.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, really, really cool and different, which comes as no surprise, which is the best thing about music. Now, you were saying out there that you have a vinyl collection at home and you've been collecting them since you were a teenager.
Yeah.
So now, is there a number? Do you know a specific number about how many you have?
Records I have?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be in the hundreds probably.
Yep.
But yeah, I started collecting records in my really early teens. Mainly, it started with punk rock music. So
Yep.
I feel like punk rock records were pretty accessible during, I guess, my time as a teenager.
Yep.
So yeah, and I discovered a lot of really great music through those records as well.
Yeah, can you remember like one that you bought because maybe the cover looked cool and you didn't know who it was and you took it home and listened to it and were blown
I feel
away?
like I've done that a lot of times. I've been able to discover bands that I've never heard before based on just like the album artwork.
Yep.
Most of the time they're hits and sometimes they're misses, obviously. But you know, you look at like album covers like Destroyer, like the Kiss album.
Yep.
Like I remember as a child, like seeing that, and I was like, "Whoa! Like
What is this?
I'm gonna put this on, and it's gonna be like raw, you know." And then you're like, "What? This does not match like the sound." I still like it, you know.
Yep.
But yeah, and even then, I think album covers like that definitely inspired certain aesthetics or ways of dressing for me and for tons of other people too.
All right, so now we're gonna go through this list. Go through the 5 albums, no particular orders, take them out and we'll talk about them, deep dive.
Okay.
Vinyl number 1.
I mean, the first one is going to be this rare specimen, The Cure, Disintegration. Love this album. I was talking about earlier how, there's just those albums that from front to back are just,
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge Cure fan. I feel like there's not a Cure album that I don't like, but this one has always been my favorite. The song Disintegration itself, I feel like it's the most perfect rainy day song to listen to.
Yeah.
And yeah. And Robert Smith is just such a poet. I feel like there are so many lyrics that he's written that I would gladly tattoo on myself,
Right. A way with words.
Yeah.
And it's emotional.
Like where a stranger can completely understand or put into words all the things you've been feeling for,
Right.
years.
It's how you feel, but someone else's words.
Yeah.
Which is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Really.
Which is
At the
super
same
cool.
time.
Yeah.
Now you said rainy day. Like, can you listen to The Cure at any point during any day?
Oh yeah, if there's sun out, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But sometimes when it's
like,
raining.
I don't go to the beach. I'm not a beach person, but if I did, I could still listen to Disintegration on the beach, I think. Yeah. They're actually one of the only bands that I still actually love and look forward to like their new albums. I think they're still evolving and they're still like the future of music.
This is Vinyl Obsession, the podcast, and we're back with tattoo artist Kat Von D. All right, second one.
Okay, second one.
Vinyl number 2.
Well, speaking of which, Depeche Mode. Songs of Faith and Devotion. This is one of my favorite Depeche Mode albums. I feel like, usually bands, to me, I feel like there's a pattern of where I like a lot of the earlier stuff. And Depeche Mode is one of those bands that's the opposite. Like the earlier stuff I don't relate to. I feel like it was, I feel like, when I think of like Just Can't Get Enough, or it's just a little bit too clean and safe for me. And I feel like they just got darker as they got older, and I feel like they refined some of their musicianship too, which is cool. I mean, I like to see the evolution, of course, but I think by this era is like really where because I'm a huge fan of analog synthesizers. They're the kings of that, and lyrics, and I love that Dave Gahan's vocals are just so human. There's like a soulfulness to it, and they're one of those bands that aren't afraid to like show imperfections. It's actually part of it. You kind of look forward to the cracks in the voice and all that stuff.
The vulnerability of that.
Yeah. And I love like a lot of the biblical references in a lot of the lyrics in this album, and yeah, I love it.
In your world, where souls disappear, only you exist here.
And that's neat that you said that the early stuff, because it's often the reverse, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I was into them. The first album was really cool, but the second one. And for you, it's a completely different way.
Yeah.
And maybe they're leaning into or figuring themselves out kind of as they went, which is not often the way, but it's really cool.
You know, bands like this, they're like legendary acts. They don't need to make any more new music. You could literally tour off of this crazy
with that
library that you already have. But they're actually one of the only bands that I still actually love and look forward to, like their new albums. I think they're still evolving, and they're still the future of music, which I love.
Now, musically, would you say Depeche Mode is somebody that's like an influence for you?
Yeah, I don't think my music is necessarily like sounds anything like Depeche Mode, but I feel like when it comes to like synthesizers and just like sound palettes, I'm definitely a fan. I like programmed drums. I like the sound of them. I mean, I like live drums too for other genres of music, but for electronic music,
yours.
Yeah. So I feel like I wouldn't want to ever flatter myself into putting us in the same sentence in a sense, but because I'm such a huge fan.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely would say they're a huge influence on how we design sound.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Her voice and her delivery is so specific, and it's just, and I don't like using the word iconic because everybody uses that word, but it's just, there is no other.
Welcome back to Vinyl Obsession, the podcast. Today, we have tattoo artist and singer Kat Von D talking about her top 5 vinyl. All right, number 3. Vinyl number 3.
Motörhead. So this is Ace of Spades. I love this album. I mean, this is one, again, it's just like hit after hit for me. Like everyone knows obviously Ace of Spades, but Love Me Like a Reptile, Shoot You in the Back, Live to Win, Fast and Loose. I feel like this was such a, like Motörhead to me is rock and roll. Like it's not metal.
I know
they tend to get put into like a metal genre, but like Lemmy would always say like, we're not metal at all, But yeah, I love everything about this album. The artwork, the music, everything.
Can you remember the first time you heard this album?
I'm trying to think. I think it was around the same time where my music taste evolved from punk rock into like the metal world. Like I started listening to a lot of Iron Maiden and like the classics like Metallica, stuff like that. And then when I just remember discovering Motörhead and listening to the first time, you're like, wow, like this is something I've never heard of before. Like not in this way. You know? And like you're like making fun of your voice. I feel like, well, I don't know. You might be a great singer. I mean, Lemmy had a really distinct, gnarly voice, and it worked.
It's so singular and distinct. Like there's no mistaking. Right? I'm certainly not embarrassed of my voice. It's very cool and it's singular. And like if you're hearing me talk, there's no mistaking. It's me talking. And cool. that's how it. I mean, no one would say, he's a classic voice, but for that kind of music and for the lyrics that he wrote and for Motörhead's kind of the whole package of Motörhead, it was perfection.
Totally. And I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but like Lemmy did a lot of the artwork that, was on a lot of the other albums and even some of his merch and stuff. And he was one of my most favorite people on the planet, and I miss him every day. But I remember like going to his house a lot, and he'd have just like piles and piles of books where he just had different limericks and poems and stuff that never really saw the light of day, and everything was just gold. He was just so great at it, and he was really like, excited play and have an audience, and he continued to write until the day he died. You know,
Yeah.
Something very admirable about that. I don't think there will ever be another Lemmy. You know?
Yeah, there certainly can't be duplicated.
Yeah,
One of those people,
Yeah.
just singular in every way.
Yeah.
That's
Just
such a cool
the
way
essence
thing.
of cool, yeah.
To being a fan of discovering them and being a fan and then getting to meet him and hang out with him and go to his house.
Yeah.
That's such a special thing.
Yeah.
And I can say that I'm jealous.
Oh.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. All right, number
Sweet.
4.
All right, number 4.
Vinyl number 4.
Björk. This is homogenic. I mean, Hunter to me, like, I mean, this album, I feel like people still haven't cracked the code to it. I feel like when you listen to songs like Pluto, like I used that song on an Instagram reel I posted a little while ago, and there's just something so gnarly and aggressive about the drums on that and her vocals and the delivery on that. It's like there's almost a sense of doom. Like it's just as dark as any black metal album, you know?
Exhilarating kind of in a way.
Yeah. And you know, Bachelorette, to me, that like the lyrics on that is pure poetry. You know, like I said earlier when I was looking at the record store, like there are only like a few musical acts on this planet that are just so distinct, and there can't be another person like that. Like Björk, her voice and her delivery is so specific, and you know, you just like her, Morrissey, Axl Rose. I feel like there's like some singers that you're just like, it's just, and I don't like using the word iconic because everybody uses that word, but it's just, there is no other.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Singular. Right? Is that a thing? For me, I don't know a ton about her, but I grew up in Canada, born and raised in Canada, and I remember it played on Much Music, one of her videos.
Oh,
and I was just
Much Music. Yeah.
I was like, what?
Oh, her music videos are so cool. Everything about her is pure art, you know?
Yes.
And she just like
every single thing.
Yeah.
And now do you feel like it's that she cares about all of it, right? Like she said, this is what it looks like. This is what the cover looks like. This is how the music video is shot. This is how it feels. All of it. Because the art is above everything else. Yeah. And she doesn't care about being popular. Yeah. Right? She just cares about the art. Yeah. It's like in her, and she's got to let it go.
To that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, she's the coolest for sure.
It's awesome.
So much talent and tiny little body.
Yeah.
I love horror movies, and I just remember literally feeling scared watching this music video, and I had never experienced that with a music video. And I was just like, like my worst nightmare just came true, you know?
Welcome back to Vinyl Obsession, the podcast. We're taking a look at tattoo artist Kat Von D's top vinyl picks. All right, last but not least. Vinyl number 5.
Was this Bauhaus record. And like I mentioned before, like Double Dare and In the Flat Field, those 2 songs for me are one of my all-time favorite songs. I feel like there's just something almost tribalistic about it, especially in the drums and just in the delivery of the vocals. But I'm a huge Peter Murphy fan. I feel like one of my bigger musical accomplishments was to be able to do a song with him on vocals as well on my first album. And just to be in the same sentence with him is like the coolest thing ever. I just think he's so great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, how did you discover this band? What led you to it?
I feel like I don't exactly remember when the first time it was that I listened to Bauhaus. I feel like there was like an era where I discovered post-punk in general, and that's when I started listening to The Cure and Susie and the Banshees and Depeche Mode, and I feel like Bauhaus kind of gets clumped into that group. Genre, even though I wouldn't necessarily say they are. I don't know. They're their own thing, you know.
In around that time, though, and a lot of like your selections I find there's. I mean, the word, I'm saying it again, but singular. Yeah. Right? Like, this is singular. Björk is singular. Yeah. Motörhead is, I think tons of people have tried to be like them. Yeah. Right? And
or they get inspired,
or inspired by them, which I think is important in music. Yeah. Not the lineage, but like, obviously when you're young and before you were a musician, there's things that you listened to that inspired you. Sure. To be a certain style or sing a certain way or musically put melodies together in a certain way. And I think that's cool. Now, is there somebody that you would say that maybe they listen to Bauhaus listened to that's something that inspired them?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's tons of bands that are, I'm certain, influenced by Bauhaus. But I think, like, going back to what you were saying about like that specific authenticity, like I think Bauhaus has like hit that corner for me because it's in everything that they do. Like I remember seeing the music video for that song, The Mask, and which is not on this album, it's on the Mask album. And I remember it looked like a horror movie, and I love horror movies. And I just remember literally feeling scared watching this music video. And I had never experienced that with a music video, but there's like a part of the video where he's like kind of laying down, he looks like a corpse of some sort. And then all of a sudden he just sits up and looks at the camera, and it's one of those like, like zombie moments. And I was just like my worst nightmare just came true, Yeah. And one thing that I love about that song in particular is that it is so ugly, and it has to be that ugly for it to open up to these really beautiful, like spidery guitars at the end that just make you want to cry. Yeah, I feel like nowadays people don't really care for like that slow burn build, and like to me those are some of my favorite songs. Yeah,
I love that too. Yeah. I think how you're saying about that feeling of watching that video or seeing their art and then the soundtrack of their songs playing behind, it's the full experience.
Yeah, or just like feeling that high or that thrill, it's like very few bands do that for me nowadays, I don't know what it is. It's like it's lost a little bit of
and
that.
they definitely do it for you, which is why they end up in the top 5.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, is there anything that you're working on right now, new album, new stuff that you want to get out there and talk about?
We just finished writing the next album. Doesn't sound like Bauhaus, but
right.
It's it's my own world that I've created.
Yeah, and that's something that you've kind of, that world that you've gone down. How exciting is that for you to be creating your own music now?
I think most people know me from the tattoo world or from when I used to have a makeup line and things like that, but not a lot of people know that music has always been like my first and foremost biggest passion. Like I was classically trained in piano since I was 5, and so music has always been like, I probably should have put a Beethoven song in there, but in my top 5, but I feel like that it would have sounded so pretentious. Like I remember seeing like a reel on Instagram where they were like interviewing actors on red carpet, asking them what their favorite like films are, and it's like films that nobody's ever heard because they're just trying so hard to be cool.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm just gonna like pick songs that I just absolutely love and
that are important to you.
Yeah. But anyways, so I think for me, music, it's kind of a little bit of what we talked about earlier. It's like, I love tattooing, I love drawing. The connection that I make with a person when I tattoo them is so intimate and it's so direct, one-on-one. And music has been able to do that for me on like with a larger net. Like so, like
it's not just one.
Yeah, like I'll release a song and I can see that people respond to certain lyrics that, like you were saying, we all perceive lyrics in our own way, and or something that means something to me is going to be different for you, and you become part of their life in that way. And I think that there's something very sweet about that, and I love that. I mean, I've always had a big connection with fans, and I like, I guess being a loner all my life and not really feeling like I really belonged anywhere, like even within my own family unit. I feel like when I connect with fans or followers, it's kind of like the family I never had, and to be able to do that through music is like, it's just the coolest.
Yeah,
and then to play
exhilarating.
Live,
over your art.
Yeah,
that's cool. I mean, like very similar in a way is my job, I guess, is I'm a professional wrestler, but one of my biggest passions in life is just talking about music, listening to music, all different kinds. It doesn't matter. So watching you and listening to you speak about music and how excited you were flipping through and like finding this band and finding that band, that's a drug, right? It's a drug. And
can I tell you something that's off topic?
Yes.
So like, I didn't go to high school, I dropped out, but so my school years are generally, I refer to my elementary years and then my middle school. But in middle school, I was the queen of the mat. I took like, I did like a wrestling.
Not a guess I would have made.
So like I joined the wrestling team, and I'm sure we were like a bunch of like pathetic little nerds, but cause it was like in 7th grade or something, but I ended up beating every weight class, like from like, whatever, the smallest to biggest, all in a row, and I was queen of the mat.
Queen of the mat.
And so that to me was like one of the biggest highlights of my school years.
Yeah, that's awesome. So listen,
like
buy her albums or she'll find you.
I'm like, I swear, like, we have more in common than you think.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
The cool thing about music is that we can sit here, two people from two completely different worlds, and have this amazing conversation. I mean, it's a drug. It's a drug for you. It's a drug for me. Kat, really appreciate it. Guys,
thank you.
Listen, this has been Vinyl Obsession, the podcast. She's Kat Von D. I'm Eric Young. She's obsessed. I'm obsessed. And now you're obsessed too.